Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To Ustazah Nik Meriati binti Nik Din. My name is Siti Aminah binti Kazani from group BA2493A.
Hi and Assalamualaikum to Ustazah Nik Meriati Nik Din. My name is Nur Akida binti Aunadi from class BA2493A.
The topic outline of this presentation, which is rule of interpretation, interpretation of the word, clear word and unclear word, general and specific, absolute and qualified, literal and metaphorical, and the last one is homonym. First of all, what is the rule of interpretation? It is the process of ascertaining the true meaning of the word used in a statute. The court is not expected to interpret randomly, and therefore there has been certain principles that can change out of the continuous exercise by the court. These principles are sometimes called rule of interpretation. The greater part of the fiqh consists of rules which are derived through interpretation and ijtihad from the text that is not self-evident. Thus, the function of interpretation is to discover the intention of the lawgiver or any person for that matter from his speech and action. Words has been classified into various types, which reference their conceptual clarity. The ulama of usul fiqh classified word into two main categories of clear word and unclear word. The task of evaluating the precise purport of comment is greatly facilitated if one is able to ascertain the degree of clarity in which it is conveyed. Word also classified from the viewpoint of their scope, which is into homonym, general specific, absolute and qualified. From the viewpoint of actual use, such as whether a word is used in its primary, secondary, literal, technical or customary sense, words are once again divided into two main categories of literal hakiki and metaphorical majazi. I move to the another slide, which is from the viewpoint of wuduh. Words are divided into the two main categories, which is a clear and unclear word. I move to the first one, which is a clear word. A clear word is a convey, a concept. It is intelligible without resource to interpretation. A word is unclear on the other hand when it lacks the foregoing qualities. The meaning which it conveys is ambiguous or incomplete and required to clarification. The clarification so required can only be supplied through extraneous evidence for the text let it. The clear text, on the other hand, is a self-contained and need to resource to extraneous evidence. Based on the clarity and conceptual strength, clear words are divided into four main types, which is first one, the manifest, yakni zahir, and then the second one, which is the explicit, yakni nas, which the comment of the greater clarity. This is followed by the third one, which is the unequivocal, which is the musaffar, and finally with the bird speeches, which is muhkam, which rank highest in the clarity. Firstly, type of clear word are the manifest, zahir. It is the less clear. A word which has a clear meaning and yet is open to ta'wil, primarily because the meaning that it conveys is not the harmony with the context in which it occurred. It's a word which have a literal or original meaning of its own, but leave which open to possibility of the alternative interpretation. It also zahir has been defined a word which they appear convey a clear meaning, while this meaning is not principal theme of the text in which they appear. For example, a word lion. In a sentence, I saw a lion. It's clear enough, but it is possible, although less likely, that the speaker might mean a brave man. Secondly, the explicit nas. It is the greater clarity than the zahir. A word conveys clear meaning that in harmony with the context in which it appears, and yet still open to ta'wil. It is classified as a nas. The distinction between zahir and the nas mainly depends on their relationship with their context. This may be illustrated in the Quranic text concerning polygamy. Allah said in Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 3, meaning, and if you fear that you cannot treat the orphan justly, then marry the woman who seem good to you, 2, 3 or 4. Thus, it ayat means one of which is polygamy is permissible, and to the extent of 4 wives allowed. However, legalizing marriage between man and woman is not the principal theme of this text, but only a subsidiary point. The main theme of the nas and the incidental point of the zahir. As an example, polygamy, the absolute theme of this ayat, has been qualified by the Quran ruling by quote, which is clear limit of polygamy of 4. Thirdly is the unequivocal, yakni musafar, which is the higher rank the nas. This typically means a word or text that's completely clear and it harmony with the context. Because of this, there is no need to resort to ta'wil, but still, the musafar may still be open to abrogation. It is still to be open for the abrogation, which might refer the Quran and Sunnah, and has been taken place during the lifetime of the prophets. That has 2 types of musafar. Firstly is the bizati, and the second one is the bighairi. For bizati, is the means of being the text which is the self-explained. Allah said in Surah Al-Qadar, ayah 1/4, which is the text explain the Layla Al-Qadar, and the text as a result is become self-explained or musafar. Hence, there is no need for resource to ta'wil. I go to the next, which is bighairi. Bighairi, which means when the ambiguity in the one text is clarified and explained by the another. Lastly is the suspicious or muhkam. It is the highest rank of the clarity. This type also the word of sentence meaning is clear and are not open to interpretation, which is the ta'wil and abrogation. For example of this frequency occurring Quranic statement that God knows all things. This kind of statement cannot be abrogated, either the lifetime of the prophet or after this demise. Allah said in Surah Al-Ahzab ayat 55, It is not right for you to anoint the messenger of God, nor should you ever marry his wisdom after him, for that is truly enormity in God's sight. Next is an unclear word. These are the words which does not convey a clear meaning without the aid and additional evidence that may be furnished by the lawgiver or by mujtahid. If the ambiguity is clarified by means of research and ijtihad, the words are classified as khafi, obscure, and the mushkil, difficult. But when the ambiguity could only be removed by an explanation which is furnished by the lawgiver, the word is classified either as a mujmal, ambivalent, and the mutashabih, intricate. Unclear words are divided into 4 types, namely as a khafi, mushkil, next is a mujmal, and the last one is the mutashabih. Type of unclear words are obscure, khafi, a word which has a basic meaning but potentially ambiguous. The ambiguity in khafi need to be classified by extraneous evidence, which often matter research and ijtihad. An example of khafi is the word of thief, sariq, which has a basic meaning but when applied to cases like that of the pickpocket or a person who steals some of the deed, thus not make it immediately clear whether thief included them and whether the punishment of the thief can be applied to them. To remove the ambiguity in khafi is usually a matter of ijtihad, which will explain why there are divergent rulings on the foregoing examples. Secondly, type of unclear word which is a mushkil. Mushkil denotes a word that is inherently ambiguous and whose ambiguity can only be removed by means of ijtihad. They are, for example, words have more than one meaning. Thus, the word kur, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah ayat 228, is the mushkil as has 2 distinct meanings, which is a menstruation hard and the clean period between 2 menstruation tour. Imam Shafi'i and the number of jurists adopted the latter, whereas the Hanafi and the other adopted by the former. So, there are no certainly as the correct meaning of mushkil, as it is inherently ambiguous. Any explanation which is provided by the mujtahid is bound to be speculative. So, in Surah Al-Baqarah, meaning, and divorced women shall wait as a regard their marriage for 3 menstrual period. Next is type of unclear word which is ambivalent, mujmal, which is a word of that which is inherent unclear or given no indication as to its precise meaning. The cause of ambiguity in mujmal is inherent in the locution phrase itself. A word may be homonym, mushtarak, with more than one meaning, and there is no indication as to which might be the correct one, or alternatively, the lawgiver has given it a meaning other than its literal one, or the word may be totally unfamiliar. Word that has been used in transferred sense, that is for a meaning other than their literal one, to convey a technical or juridical concept, fall under the category of mujmal. For example, expressions such as salah, riba, hajj, and the siyam have all lost their literal meaning. The juridical meaning of the Quranic word cited above that has explained by the Prophet, in which case they cases to be ambivalent and turn into the musaffar. Last but not least, type of unclear word which is intricate, mutashabih, a word whose meaning is the total mystery. There is a word in the Quran whose meaning not all known at all. For example, Some of the surah of the Quran begin with call as a muqatta'at, that is abbreviated letter whose meaning is a total mystery, and expressions such as Alif Lam Mim, Yasin, Ha Mim, and many more. The passages of the Quran which draw resemblances between God and man are also in the nature of the mutashabih. I move to slide general and specific. Words are classified into general and the specific. The ulama identified certain linguistic patterns of words which assist in differentiating am from khas.
Okay, next we will move to another slide, which is al-am, or a word general. Al-am can be described or defined as a word which applies to many things, not limited in numbers, and includes everything to which it is applicable. For example, the evidence in Surah Al-As, verse number 2, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الإنسان لفي خسر صدق الله العظيم. The meaning of the surah is, surely humanity is in grave loss. In the conclusion, a word al-am or general covers the meaning as a whole, and furthermore, there is no meaning can be substituted for that phrase. Okay, we will jump to another slide, which is a specific or al-khas. When a word applied to a number, not to a limited number of things, including everything to which it can be applied, say 1 or 2 or 100, it is referred as a specific or al-khas. A word of this kind may denote a particular individual. For instance, the comment of fasting in Surah Al-Baqarah 185, meaning that the month of Ramadan in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for mankind and clear proof for the guidance, and the criterion between the right or wrong. So whoever of you cites the crescents on the first nights of the month of Ramadan, he must observe some or fast that month. Classification is mutlaq or the absolute. Mutlaq refers to a word is neither qualified nor limited in its applications. For example, a book, a bird, or a man. Mutlaq is unspecified and unqualified. It differs from al-am. However, the latter comprises all to which it applies, whereas the former can apply to any one of a multitude but not to all. The same ulama, including al-Badawi, the mutlaq resembles al-am, and muqayyad resembles the khas. For example, mutlaq in Quran is kafara of feudal oaths, which is freeing a slave, fatahiru raqabatin. There is an evidence in the Quran passage in Surah Mujadilah, verse 58, give a meaning, and those who pronounce zihar from their wives and then wish to go back on what they said, then there must be the freeing of slave before they touch one another. That is what you are admonished thereby, and Allah is aware of what you do. The command in this text is not limited to any kinds of slaves, whether Muslims or non-Muslims. Muqayyad or qualified. When mutlaq word is qualified by another word or words to it becomes muqayyad. For example, a red book, a wise man, a huge bird. In the Quran passage, the expiation of Uranus killing consists of freeing a Muslim slave in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 92, which is Fatahriru Raqabatin Mu'minatin. The comment in the ayah is qualified in that slave to be released must be a Muslim. When mutlaq is qualified into a muqayyad, the latter prevail over the former. Then the next slide is muqayyad or qualified. When mutlaq word is qualified by another word or words to it becomes muqayyad. For example, a red book, a wise man, a huge bird. In the Quran passage, the expiation of Uranus killing consists of freeing a Muslim slave in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 92, which is Fatahriru Raqabatin Mu'minatin. The comment in the ayah is qualified in that slave to be released must be a Muslim. When mutlaq is qualified into a muqayyad, the latter prevail over the former. Alright, next is a homonym or mushtarak, is a word which has more than one meaning. For example, ain means eye, water spring, goal, and spy. The plurality in a mushtarak may be due to the usage of different Arab tribes and communities. For example, as we can see in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 43, give a meaning, or you have been in contact with women and you find no water. Perform tayammum with clean earth and rub therewith your faces and hands, which means tayammum. Surely Allah is ever pardoning, forgiving. The next classification is hakiki or literal and majazi, the metaphorical. A word may be used in literal sense, hakiki, that is for its original or primary meaning, or also may be used in a metaphorical sense, or majazi, or secondary meaning. When a word is applied literally, it keeps its original meaning, but it is used in metaphorical sense. It is transferred from its original to a secondary meaning on ground of a relationship between the two meaning must have a connected meaning. One such transfer is taken place both original and secondary meaning of a word cannot be assigned to it at the same time. Hence, if a word is simultaneously used in both these senses, the literal will prevail. For example, when a person says in his will that I bequeath my property to my memorizers of the Quran or to my offspring, these who might have memorized the Quran but have forgotten it since will not be entitled. Offspring or awlad, primarily sons and daughters, not grandchildren. For example, awlad to grandchildren is a metaphorical usage which is secondary to its original meaning. Both literal and metaphorical occur in the Quran, and they each convey their respective meaning. Some ulama have observed that majazi is the nature of a homonym. For example, in Surah An-Nur, verse number 35, and the meaning said, God is the light of the sky and the earth. Next, we move to another slide, which is the division of hakiki. First is linguistic or luwawi, a word which is used in its dictionary means such as lion for the animal, man for the male gender of the human being. Second, customary or urfi. It occurs in two varieties, which are general and special. First is general, when a word is used in customary sense and the custom is absolutely common among people. Then the special is used for a definition that is common for a particular profession or a group. And the last division of hakiki is juridical or shari'i. There is some disagreement. Some ulama consider juridical hakiki as a variety of majazi. The classification of hakiki and majazi in soreh or plain, if the application of word is such that it clearly discloses the speaker's intention, it is plain, otherwise it is elusive. The highest degree of clarity in expression is achieved by the combination of the plain or soreh and the literal hakiki, such as the sentence, Abu bought a house, or Siti married to Abu. Then, kinaya or allusive implies form of speech, which does not clearly disclose the intention of the speaker. It can occur in combination with the literal or metaphorical. When a person wishes, for example, to confide in his college in front of the others, he might say, I met your friend and spoke to him about the matter that you know.